You're ready to go. Welcome back. I'm Dave Traeger. This is Julia. And I'm going to pass this to Julia in a second, but I just have a couple brief announcements. This morning we have the Corpus Choir who are going to introduce themselves to you and explain all sorts of wonderful things about habitats and such with their lovely music. Just a couple preliminary early announcements. First of all, I'm very, very grateful that you're all here, and I'm grateful that I spoke to my brother in Florida today, and he's perfectly safe. And I hope all of your relatives and friends in Florida and Texas are safe too. We had our first big dose of rain here, which is really exciting. Some people I know, when I was sitting and talking to people coming in, some people forgot their raincoats today. No worries. I have a couple boxes of raincoats over there for you, right by that beautiful wood stove. So just grab one if it looks like it's going to be a little bit wet. And also you might take the garbage bag along too for something to sit on. But just put everything back when you're done, please. There was one person who has lost already something. One of these wonderful little trail notebooks that we have for you. We have over there, if we find something paperish, we'll put it in your mailbox. We also have a lost and found box that's clearly marked in that room back there, so if you lose a coat or a backpack, that's where it goes. And if you need something, if you need a replacement item, just let us know. Shadowing. There's been a couple questions about shadowing, and how do we schedule that? We have Bill Bridges is working on a sign-up genius, which is a fabulous project. I'm very grateful that he's doing that. That's going to be ready for you next week. You'll be able to go online and pick exactly who and when and where you are shadowing for the 2 shadowings for the hikes and the 2 shadowings for the classroom visits. That'll be all ready for you next week. Any questions about that? Here's Julie.
Good morning, everybody. Just gonna invite you to arrive in your seat. It's been a busy morning, and there's some traffic and some weather and lots of busyness over there and lots of people. And so just take a moment to just shake that off, and you're on 535 acres of beautiful wildland, and you arrived safely. And you're among friends, and it's going to be a magical day today. So whatever nonsense noise is percolating, just like you're going to throw that out the door. It'll be waiting for you when you get back, or you could just leave it, and we'll compost it for you. So just take a nice breath and land in your chair and let go of everything. And if you would please get your music sheet out, that would be a good thing to do. And practice little me.
Ready? I am going to use my teacher voice. I'm Ellie Herman. I'm the director of the Quercus Choir, and this is the Quercus Choir. That's great. Who we are, we're a group of docents and volunteers, and we work for Audubon Canyon Ranch right here. And what we do is we go into elementary schools and give assemblies 2 Fridays a month, and our assemblies are songs about science and nature, and they're all sing-along songs, so we involve the audience in every song. We sang last year to between 2,000 and 3,000 students, and so we're reaching out there, and we have a calendar of rehearsals and shows, and Nancy Turbovich has our calendar. You are all invited to become members of the choir if you so desire. If you like to sing, you don't have to be a great singer. You just have to have a love of singing and maybe be a little bit of a ham. Anyway, we are going to give you a taste of our greatest hits this morning. There are 4 songs, and the words are on the table in front of you, and we do invite you to sing sing along. Our first song is Spiders and Snakes. So now I'm switching to assembly mode. How many legs does a spider have, everybody? Very good. So when we sing about spiders, you're going to hook your thumbs together. Let's all practice this. And wiggle your 8 legs. And how many legs does a snake have? Very good. That was a trick question. So when we sing about snakes, you're going to put your hands together and slither. Spiders and snakes.
They're hard, shallow, their bones are on the outside. So, and they have something, what is this up here that is absolutely beautiful? We have the antenna. Okay, so we have, this is all interactive, so we're going to, I'm going to point, we have the head, thorax, abdomen. Okay, we'll do it again. Head, thorax, abdomen. They're inside out, no bones within. Head, thorax, abdomen. I'm talking about my six-legged friends. They go through a metamorphic change. They turn from weird to really strange. Wings can fly, antenna too. Mouth parts to from pollinating flowers to eating decay. Head, thorax, abdomen, they're inside out, no bones within. Head, thorax, abdomen, I'm talking about my six-legged friends. If you want a different point of view, get down on the ground and do what insects do. And if you see a hood in the air, know that it's a hood that walks with care. Head, thorax, abdomen, they're inside out, no bones within. Head, thorax, abdomen, I'm talking about my six-legged friends. I'm talking about my insect friends. Our next song is Decomposition. And decomposition is a very important part of the food chain. We have decomposers, like the mushrooms, the snail, the banana slug, the worms. They're all part of the food chain when plants and animals break down and decay. These guys are very good decomposers to munch away. And then everything goes back into the soil and gives nutrients to the soil, and the food chain starts again to grow new plants. So, decomposition. And Fran, he's going to be one of the munchers, and Deanne is one of the breakdowners. So they're going to tell you your part in this.
Actually, a lot of you are munchers. This table, and let's do the back row. The operative word is munch, but you're really hungry. You haven't snacked out here at all this morning, so it's muncha muncha. Let's try that. Muncha muncha. And remember, you're really hungry, so that's got to continue throughout a lot of this song. All right? I'll give you the cue when you start to munch, and at the end we'll talk about what the other part of the room.
We take all that munching, the chewed up stuff in the frass, and we decompose it into the ground. That's the word decomposition. We're the word. And everybody here, when we take all that stuff, we're going to put it down, give nutrients to the earth. We're going to go decomposition. Decomposition. Show me. Decomposition. All right. Decomposition. Great. Okay.
I think they're ready.
Yeah. All right.
Is there a way to know? I don't know. Is there a race? Well, I don't know. One thing dies to let another grow. The circle we see most every day. The pain that we call it is decay. Come
Do any of you know what that word spells? Remember, I'm talking to kindergartners through here.
We're not that different.
Okay, ecology. Ecology is the study of plants, animals, their habitat, and how they're all interrelated to each other. The message in this last song we're going to sing is one that we want to leave you with, which we consider to be really important. And that is that we only have one planet to live on. And it's very important that we take good care of it. Can any of you think of ways we can take care of Mother Earth? No litters. Recycle.
Very good.
Compost. Do any of you recycle?
Yeah.
Great. So all of you are probably doing a bit for the earth right now. So we're going to learn how to sing the song together. We're going to start with spelling the word ecology. E-C-O-L-O-G-Y. And then comes a clapping part. It goes. It's slow, quick, slow, quick, slow. Yeah. Let's do it slow. Let's start with spelling. E-C-O-L-O-G-Y. Okay, let's sing it. E-C-O-L-O-G-Y. E-C-O-L-O-G-Y.
Jennifer Potts is my coworker. She's a resource ecologist here at the Booby Preserve. She is responsible for habitat restoration, invasive species control. She works on our mountain lion project, and she leads the most awesome group
volunteers every Monday who are the people who are out there working hard in the hot sunny sun to make sure that our preserve is healthy and happy, and the trails are healthy and happy, and you're not allowed to defect to that group until after you're a docent. It's made up of many former docents or current docents. So anyway, Jen will tell you more about herself. She's an expert in chaparral. She wrote her master's thesis on fire and chaparral, so she will be taking you to the chaparral. Anything you want to add to that? I should also point out that even though we always say we have to model what we want the kids to wear, Jen never wears long pants, even in the freezing cold weather. So she gets her pass. I don't think she even owns any. Okay, so today is our first day of just diving in and getting to know the preserve, and we are doing that in a way that we do it with the kids as well. So this is a slide from the slideshow that you will be showing kids in the classroom. And this slide is in both the spring and the fall slideshows. And what we tell the kids is basically there's 4 main plant communities or habitats at the Ruby Preserve. And hopefully in your hike you'll get a chance to visit each one of them. And these habitats are a lot like rooms in your house. So you know how your bedroom is really comfy, cozy, and you might go there to hang out and sleep. Your kitchen has different smells, might be a different temperature. And then the sunroom might be really hot, or the porch. So just like your house, in nature, these different habitats look and feel different. And when you're in them, you can tell that they look and feel different. So a lot of what we're going to be doing today is noticing what we see and feel in each of these 4 main habitats. The 4 habitats that we will be exploring today are oak woodlands. Every hike at Bouverie starts in the oak woodlands because the parking lot is you can't get anywhere without going through the oak woodlands. The mixed evergreen forest, riparian, is a word that some kids may not have heard. You might not have used it in regular language. It means just by a river or stream. So that's the habitat that's right along the stream. And then, of course, the chaparral, which is a little bit hotter and drier and higher here at Bouverie Preserve. So one of the amazing things about this place, which you will come to appreciate, I'm sure, is that we're only 535 acres. We only have about 5 full miles of trail. So, I mean, as nature preserves go, that's not super huge. But on those 5 miles of trails and in that relatively small space, you can hike in one day through basically a microcosm of Sonoma County. And one of the reasons this place benefits from it, well, what are some of the reasons you think?
People get introduced to them for habitats and for ecosystems.
Yeah, they're right here. You get to see them. But what are some of the things you may have noticed about the landscape here at Bouverie that yields itself to a lot of diversity of structure?
You have elevation of the river.
Yeah. So we have a perennial creek which runs all year. We have an 80-foot waterfall, and that's different than a lot of places. And not only that, it's a creek that runs through a canyon. And the canyon has a north-facing slope. So what do we know about slopes that face north? Think about where the sun is. Yeah, so a north-facing slope is cooler, generally, than a south-facing slope, right? Because in our hemisphere, the sun, even on a hot day, kind of doesn't really bear down on the north-facing slope. So we just happen to have this north-facing slope, which allows for this really amazing mixed evergreen forest that other places don't have. They don't have it across the street like we do. And then we also have something, Sonoma County is considered a coastal county, or the North Bay area. We also have Sonoma Mountain right there. And there will be mornings when you come here and you'll see the fog oozing over Sonoma Mountain, but not quite making it down to the edge of the valley. So because of Sonoma Mountain, we're actually shielded from some of the coastal influences that other parts of the county might feel. There's a 30-degree difference between Bouverie and the coast on some days, and part of that is because of where we are. So we have this really cool little laboratory of all these habitats. We also have a lot of grassland habitat, but since we don't really hike the kids through just solid grassland, we don't include it in the slideshow, but Jen and I are happy to talk at length about our grasslands because they are a really cool part of the preserve. So this is the slide that we show in the slideshow. And I just wanted to say a few things about today. So we are going to utilize that wonderful journaling technique Jack Laws talks about. I think Julia showed you his journal, CMPS journal. Anyway, in each of the, I want you to remind yourself that in each of the 4 habitats, we're going to spend 2 to 3, maybe 5 minutes, depending on how much time you have. And I want you to do that exercise where you sit down and you say, okay, what do I notice about this? What do I wonder about it? What are my questions? And what does it remind me of? What does this place remind me of? And then jot down your notes. That's your journaling exercise for today. And then I also want you to keep this question in mind. This is the question of the day. I want you to think about it wherever you are today, make observations about it, and then when we get back at the end of the day, we'll discuss it. And the question is, of these 4 incredible, amazing, super awesome habitats, which one do you think contains the most biodiversity? And for today, we are there's a million different definitions of biodiversity, but for today, we're just going to use a simple definition, which has that habitat has the most number of different living organisms. So animals, plants, fungus, bacteria. So which of these habitats, if you were able to count every single organism in that habitat, which one would come up with the most? And we'll see what we all think about that when we get back. And then finally, I have a few tiny terms I want to go over with my whiteboard so I can feel like a teacher. But before I do that, I want to plug 2 books. So this book came out just a couple years ago. Secrets of the Oak Woodlands by Kate Marion Child. If you haven't read this book, or you don't have it, run, don't walk, to your nearest Amazon.com website or bookstore. It's a beautiful book. It's a wonderful book. It is almost like, if you read this book, you're almost ready to become a Guru docent because it goes through so much of exactly what we see here. It's like a guide to the kinds of stuff you're going to see, especially in Oak Woodlands, but it's a little bit broader than that. So if you want one book, this is it.
Excuse me, could you say that title again?
Secrets of the Oak Woodlands. And Kate Marion Child is the author.
Is it on your list?
Yeah, I think it's on the list, yeah. But there's a couple copies here, and as we go through the training, we don't have time to go into all the detail that she does about all the cool stuff in the Oak Woodlands, because we have 4 habitats to cover today. But in the bird class, for example, we're going to talk about the acorn woodpeckers, and in the mammal class, we're going to talk about the cool things that the squirrels do. And in the reptile class, we're going to be talking about this cool relationship between rattlesnakes and ground squirrels and all that sort of stuff. So it'll be handy throughout the training. So there's that. And then I did want to give a plug for a book that's not on any of your lists, I don't think. And that is, so when I started graduate school, I hadn't taken any science classes as an undergrad, except for the 2 that were required. So when I started my master's program in ecology, I had to take freshman biology, freshman chemistry, and freshman physics. Which if you take them as a graduate student, really cool because they relate to the world much more than if you're trying to get into this that you need to. But anyway, in my freshman biology class, I was required to purchase this textbook called Life. And I have tried to recycle this thing like 20 times. In fact, it was in my recycling bin in my office today. And I was like, oh, where's that diagram of the leaves thing on it? It's in biology book. So I'm not saying you should get this book, but I am saying that people often ask, well, where can I find out more about, I don't know, plant physiology or how leaves are made or what is the real photosynthesis cycle and all that sort of stuff. You can pick up a biology textbook at any used bookstore for a couple of bucks. And as long as it's relatively recent, it's really handy to have around. And I know there's a lot of stuff online. You can just Google, but online is not always accurate, for one thing. And so I'm a big fan of the biology textbook. so there. So when we go out into the different habitats, we're going to be having you look really closely at the plants. And today's really more of a plant day than an animal day, even though we'll be talking a lot about how different animals relate to the plants and also how they might be adapted to that habitat. But in order to do that, there's just certain things you have to do. This is just review 101 from biology that I want to go through just really quickly. So you guys remember how life is categorized? Pigs play cards on fine green silk.
Wait, what was that?
Pigs play cards on fine green silk is what do they call the mnemonized? Because all of life used to be at least categorized by kingdom, phylum, class, order, etc. Sorry, I have terrible handwriting. But we're not going to pay any attention to those right now in part because we don't need that level of grouping, but also because the more we learn about life from DNA, the more all of this is changing. I mean, it's just every day you can read an article about how something that used to be considered something is now not anything like that. But for our purposes today, especially in the oak woodlands, we're going to be looking at 5 different species of oak. Does anyone know what the genus name for oak is?
Quercus.
So, Quercus is our genus. And then so every organism, this is review for most of you, I'm sure. But every organism has a scientific name that is its genus and its species. So its last name and its first name. And so we'll be talking about a bunch of species: Quercus lobata, Quercus Gariana. And that's the genus and species. And throughout this training, depending on who's teaching the class and what you're studying, you may come across fewer or more of these scientific names. So I just want to make sure we all, for today's purposes, know where they're coming from. And then the level above genus is family. This is relevant today because the family that the genus Quercus is in is called the oak family, also known as Fabaceae. Anytime you see the suffix ace on a word, it means it's the family. It's just the Latin for family. The reason I'm pointing this out is because there's another kind of oak in California that's not a Quercus.
Poison oak.
You know? Poison oak is in a completely different. Does anyone know what it is?
Tanbark.
How about me?
Tanbark.
Tan oak or tanbark oak. So that's in the oak family. The Quercuses are considered the true oaks, but the genus for tan oak is Lithocarpus. And I think it's Lithocarpus densiflora. Something like that. And I'm only bringing this up because you see tan oak all over, well, all over coastal areas. We don't have any here. We've never had any here. But for example, when you're studying the Native Americans, you'll come across this acorn maidens myth and story that kind of requires you to know what the tan oak is. So I'm just pointing out that tan oak is in this oak family, it's just not one of the quercus. The only oaks we have here are quercus. Does anyone know how many we have? Are you looking at the? Yeah, we have nine species of oak. Most of which you'll see today. So then the other just quick review thing is, so does that make sense to you? We're just genus and species is sort of what the level we're dealing with. And then,
Can I just ask a question? The kids don't care about the genus and species.
no,
So that's not, I mean, it's nice to know, but it's not like
Yeah,
a requirement for taking third and fourth grade.
no, absolutely not. Absolutely not. I think Julia mentioned last week that even the common name is not even necessarily important. I mean, you can have the kids name their own flowers, and they'll learn just as much about pollination as if you explain, oh, that's a, buckeye or whatever. So, and you can have a lot of fun with it. So then the other thing I just really quickly have to go through, because a lot of what we're talking about today is adaptations, plant adaptations to their habitat, to their environment. And in order to talk about that, Jen and I both will be talking about how leaves are structured a little bit. So I just want to review something really quickly, which is that here's a leaf. And what do leaves do? Leaves do respiration. They photosynthesize. And do you know how they photosynthesize? How do they pass gas between the atmosphere? How do they take in carbon dioxide? Pores, yeah. There are these little openings in the epidermis, or the skin of the leaf, called stomata. A stoma is an opening. Stomata is a pore. And there are these little openings. And I'm going to go side view. So this is the bottom. That's the top. So what the stoma do is they have these two little cells, and they open up, and then they allow for carbon dioxide to come in, and they do their photosynthesis, and then they give off oxygen and water. And they do it through these little openings, but the openings are designed to not always be open, right? So they have these things called guard cells, and they open up, and then the respiration happens, and then they close up. And where they are on the leaf depends, let me see how I can say this. Why would you not want your stoma open all the time? Because you lose too much water. Yeah, photosynthesis is a tricky business for plants. Like, they need to take in the carbon dioxide. Every time they open their little things, water escapes, and if you're a plant, that's bad. So plants have figured out all sorts of ways to minimize water loss. And you'll notice today that depending on where they are, how leaves are structured in different environments, and like where they have their stoma and how they might be curled up around their stoma is a lot about their adaptation to that environment. Is that clear? Okay. So stoma, that's a new word to you.
Are they always on the top of the leaf, or are they sometimes on the bottom?
They're almost, in many plants, they're only on the bottom. And why would that be? Yeah, the bottom, unless you're vertically aligned like this, there's less sunlight on the bottom. So a lot of them just have them on the bottom. Some of them have more on the bottom and a few on the top. If you're a grass, you have the same number on both sides. So it just varies. Anything you want to add, Jennifer?
I don't think so. We've lots to talk about out there.
Yeah.
You have to see it, touch it, feel it, smell it,
Yeah.
use your senses of it.
Cool. And And so because we are going to be doing a lot of observation, I want you to make sure you take with you when we go outside a hand lens. These are the hand lenses that we have for the kids when they come to hike. And as a docent, you will have the option of using them with your kids and showing your kids how to use them. So we will be showing you how to use them as well. They're 5 times magnification. You can also get a little one for yourself. These are really easy to find online. It's called a jeweler's loop. These are really good for looking at plants. This is a 10 times magnification. So bring a hand lens. And then the final thing we're doing a little differently today, or no, not differently, we're introducing for the very first time for you, we have a really cool tool. It's a trail audio microphone system. You do not have to use this. If your hearing is perfect and fine, you won't need it. But because we're a pretty large group, we will be hiking in smaller groups, but when everybody's together, sometimes it's hard to hear what the instructor is saying, or your fellow naturalists. So if you want to use one of these, there are some black little things like this that go around your neck. You can put them in your pocket. And then there's headsets, which look like headsets. If you have like earbuds from your iPad or your iPhone and you would rather use those, they work really well. And if you're squeamish about using other people's earpads, we have fresh foam covers for them if you like. But you might want to just try it today, and if you find it's useful, then you can use it in future times. You can also just take the headphones on and off if they bother you. So when we break in 1 minute, I want to invite you to go in the back, and where Julia is, grab one of these headsets or bring your own. When we go outside, we will synchronize everything so that we'll show you how to use it outside. It's too difficult in here. And we aren't going to be back here until 1:45.